Clay Patton on the World Radio Network. Now, we talk with livestock market analyst Kyle Bumsted on a daily basis on the World Radio Network, discussing the daily happenings in the livestock trade. But right now, with this current market, just 2 minutes isn't quite enough. So I'm taking this as a special program to talk with Kyle a little more in depth about what's going on in this market trade, focusing more on the livestock. But Kyle, to start off with, broad picture, we're in sell-off mode, it seems like, in everything. Who is pushing the panic button right now?
First of all, thanks for having me back. I think most of it's coming from the non-commercial side of the ledger here with your speculators and, you basically just your money managers and your index funds. When you see headlines like we saw coming out of the EU here the last week or so, where Bank of France is really wanting to cut down on commodity speculation, that kind of sent a ripple effect. And that happened on the same day as the USDA WASDE report. So, I wonder if it was kind of masked to be put in with that report maybe, or have that news released kind of on that report. And then we started this ripple effect. We started basically just crashing these markets here all at once that headline had been released. Now, you also look at some other things too. It's definitely going to affect our export market and some things like that, as the dollar has raced to new 20-year highs here in the last couple of days here, the last week or so. And especially on Monday there, we saw that thing race up there, north of 106. And that just really puts a damper on our export picture, because they can go somewhere else and buy things cheaper, whether it's beef, beans, corn, whatever. There's other countries in the world now that are more competitive than the USA when it comes to the raw materials and the raw goods.
There's a lot of things to keep in mind, and just so much that goes into making a market and the things that can impact it. Now, supporting the cattle market, it looks like, though, here we've got dropping carcass weights and dry conditions. Does that support the market, or is this more linear type effects?
I think it's more linear type effects for now. Yes, the drop in carcasses is a good thing overall, but the problem that we have on the backside right now is, as you mentioned too, the drought. I do know here up here in the Sandhills that there are some pastures here that are starting to question: are we going to have enough feed to get us here to the fall months as far as pasture goes? And that could keep some pressure on this feeder market if we see some feeders start to move early, which is completely possible here. But also, what is the consumer still willing to spend here at the meat counter? The question is, how much disposable income do they have to spend on beef or pork or chicken, for that matter, because chicken is not cheap anymore either. I was reading some articles here put out by some large news publications here over the weekend. There's reports of $700 a month car payments. Now, I don't know what the consumer has left at the end of the day to be spending at the meat counter when they're making car payments per month north of $700 or north of $700 a month. That's a lot of money to be giving for a car payment, in my opinion, and you still have to have some disposable income to spend on groceries after that.
There's a lot to keep in mind, and exactly there, it's where did that disposable income come from? But that also kind of brings up the question, does this then kind of support that hamburger market? You look at the cull bulls, the cull cows, especially those that seem to have some good grind quality to them. We're seeing some attractive prices coming out of these barns. Are we just killing that many more to meet the grind?
Yeah, I think we are killing more cows. We're definitely killing more cows here, especially in these drought-stricken areas. We are moving some more cows. And we did just come off the 4th of July weekend where there's a big demand for Hamburger. Now the question remains, what will that demand be after the holiday here? Now we're going to see some big fluctuations coming up here this week and next week probably here in this box market, both the pork cutout and the box beef market, because there's going to be some of that quick ship, quick fill in, get the meat counter stock back up, and then we may see it taper off just a little bit until we get more of a handle on what those consumers are willing to spend. But yes, the cow market and the bull market has been extremely well here, in my opinion, looking at things here because of that ground beef demand.
Let's go ahead and let's talk from the futures market perspective. I know you watch the spreads very closely. Does it look like they're starting to bear spread these, especially these feeders again? They continue to look out. They keep thinking it's going to get better down the road.
Recently, yes, they have started to bear spread these feeders here a little bit more, and they're thinking, yeah, it's going to get better down the road. It's going to get better down the road. But recently, seeing the action in the bear spreads and the bear spreads start to gain momentum here to the downside is not surprising, because the last couple of days here, after we had these big sales up here in the Sandhills, the special up here at Bassett that really pushed the index up here a couple of weeks ago, we have started to see this index weaken here just a little bit here. Late last week, last Friday, those sales that went into that index, dropped it over $1.25 here. And then no sales on Monday. That's going to drop it here again too, another 30-40 cents. So we are seeing the cash market in some classes of cattle that affect that index start to soften up just a little bit.
There's plenty of things to keep in mind. We're talking with livestock market analyst Kyle Bumsted. Kyle, thank you so much for your time and giving us a more in-depth picture. I know we get a quick market snapshot of what's going on every day as we talk with you. Before we close out our interview, though, what are some things you're watching for, maybe final or closing thoughts for us?
Well, I guess I'm looking for potential here for these live cattle charts to potentially hold here this August. Like this August live cattle chart here holding around this 130 mark. That looks good. But I'm also looking for December corn, hoping that it holds this 570 area. If you look at that 570 area, that's going to be a 50% retracement of the move we've had here. It also filled a gap that we left back here in February, on February 4th. So we did go down and fill some downside gaps here and some technical objectives. And also the old crop corn basis. How's that affecting things? Because there's still a really good old crop corn basis. The old crop corn basis is still on fire for most of the corn belt. So that's definitely something we need to keep an eye on too, is the cash markets on everything.
And that again is livestock market analyst Kyle Bumsted. You can always call him 308-708-7340. Do remember, trading futures and options involve risk of loss, may not be suitable for all investors. Do consider these risks before investing. Thanks for listening to the Rural